Reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. Hey everybody, Chris here from MMO Reporter, and I am joined for this very special recording by Jason, who was one of our wonderful people running around PAX getting video for us, and he went and chatted with Arenanet. So, hello Jason. First of all, how
Hi, Chris.
exhausted are you?
My feet, I can feel my feet again, finally, after sitting for several hours after being done at PAX.
PAX
I'm
is
pretty sure I
crazy.
don't know what sleep has been like for
Yeah.
about 3 days now. Yeah.
It's amazing, but you did get to spend some time on Saturday morning with with Arenanet and a few of the
Mhm.
developers there, and they were talking about some really cool stuff coming up. So, what were they talking about? I'm waiting on bated breath.
Well, what's funny is that before I even went there, see, I'll make you wait a little longer now. Before I even went there, they wouldn't
Tease.
tell us what they were talking about. They said, hey, come and chat with us about things and stuff. Okay, well, that sounds nice. So I'll go, and are we going to do an interview? Yes, yeah, we'll talk about things. Okay, great. So they invited us over, and they were gracious enough to tell us a little bit about episode 2 of
Oh,
season
yay.
3, which is coming very, very soon here to all of us, just in a couple weeks.
Wow, okay, that's super exciting. Now, I think the biggest thing, I mean, obviously there's some story stuff, but are we getting a new map?
We are getting a couple of new maps,
No
you might
way.
even say.
Oh,
Way.
like,
Now, one of the maps is for episode 2. So we will
okay.
get a new zone, which is going to be super exciting. It is something quite different than we've all seen before. And one of the things that we will also be getting is a new PvP map. So
Ooh.
PvP players do get some love in this patch that ArenaNet is putting out.
Okay, now I don't PvP, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's talk about the PvE stuff because I'm excited about that. What? Okay, new map. What is
Mhm.
this new map like? Like, tell me about it. Did they show you some graphics? I know we've got nothing to show everyone. They didn't give out any assets or anything like that. By the time this comes out, there will be a trailer, so you can watch that. But you're getting a nice shot of the Guild Wars reporter logo if you're watching the video of this on YouTube. Audio people,
Yeah.
you rock. You're
Yeah,
getting what
pretty
you always
much.
get.
Yeah, this is all for the podcast listeners
Yeah.
here tonight. So ArenaNet, ha spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't started season 3, you might want to stop listening now because we will talk a little bit about what's going on.
Yes.
But anyway, we all know that Primordius is coming. So what we have found is a new zone that is more tailored toward his element, you might say. A mountainous island full of lava and fire and
Ooh.
places that are really easy to fall into to die. It is slightly treacherous looking. We were not able to actually even play. They talked to us and they showed us some stuff and said, go talk about it. And so what we've seen is a lot of fire, a lot of
A lot
lava.
of fire. You were also mentioning skull imagery everywhere.
Yes,
Is that
there are
prominent?
skulls. There, yes, one could say it is prominent. Some really beautiful art that they have put together for this patch. The new island. Um, Verdant Brink was a very different approach, and it looks like they are taking a different approach yet again. And what we are seeing is um, something that's a little bit flatter, but with a lot of vertical elements. It's kind of hard to describe without just
Okay.
saying an island with a mountain. I'm
No,
trying to come up with a new way
so
to say
it's not
this.
necessarily that there's this square or rectangle map with different layers on it. There is a mostly flat map with some vertical parts to it, rather than just
Yes.
layered everything on top of it like 7 layer dip.
Yes, it's not a 7-layer burrito in this
Okay,
case.
got it. So now, when we were talking in the pre-show as well, you were also mentioning that there was some different ways to get around because it is a little bit of a different map design. It's not quite flat like the launch Guild Wars 2. It's not quite layered like Heart of Thorns. It's got
Yeah,
to be
it is
hard to get
definitely
around.
it's definitely a midpoint. They have leveraged the same sort of catapult type technology that they used in Verdant Brink and the other Heart of Thorns zones. We saw bouncing mushrooms. They have the same sort of catapult type technology in use here. They did not tell us what they are called.
But it's not the
Uh,
bouncing mushrooms. This is
They're not
something different.
mushrooms.
But
No,
it's different than that mastery track that you go down that's the bouncing mushrooms.
right. There are new
Okay.
masteries. There are new masteries coming. We don't really know about those either until the 20th of September. Uh, but we do know that there are masteries and there are ley lines that you can surf, just like you could surf some ley lines in the first episode content.
Right.
And that's the primary transport method for this zone. You know, it's all new. The Asura haven't had a chance to build gates out there. Maybe we'll see those someday, but for the meantime, you will be surfing and catapulting your way through this zone. Now, an interesting thing is that I believe, and I may be slightly wrong because I haven't played through all of episode 1 yet myself, the ley lines you can now jump off of, which they indicated was a new feature.
Okay, yeah, right. Because the ley lines in episode 1, you were a roller coaster. You got on at one
Right.
point and you went up till you got to the top. Now you can get off part of the way up. Like you can request a stop like on a subway.
Just hit your jump key and jump right off at any point. There isn't stops like a subway. It's completely open ended.
Okay,
So if you have a ley line that maybe circles the island that you're on, and you're
right.
just on it like a highway, and you can go round and round and round, or you can just jump right off at any point. You can also jump out of the catapults now. So before, like in Verdant Brink, you'd hop on a bouncing mushroom, it'd take you from point to point, and that was your transit. Now you are able to hit that mushroom to quick travel to someplace in between where you're trying to go, and it will not plummet you 7 stories to your death like it would in
Hmm,
Verdant Brink.
hmm.
You can actually just jump down and get in on a boss fight or get in on some new
Right.
zone fights that are going on. And
Now, did they talk about the new catapult mechanics? Are they going to be locked behind a mastery or anything like that? Did they discuss that?
they didn't really indicate that.
Okay,
They did indicate that there were new masteries. They didn't really tell us what they
right.
would be. But given that they have been using some of the same mechanics, my hope is that they will let us use these skills we've already learned for doing this to let us jump in and be able to transit around.
Hmm.
They've been really trying to, they did emphasize that they were trying to work a lot more toward casual players as well in this patch.
Okay.
They have indicated that
Okay.
some of their feedback has been that it takes them a little bit too long to get through the content. It takes players too long to unlock this stuff, and only some of the more serious players are able to really get through 100% of the masteries.
Hmm.
So now they've indicated that a lot of that will be unlocked just through playing through the content. You will get the masteries if you just want to get through the content. And so the advanced players, they didn't really talk about what else the advanced players would have to look forward to. So I think we'll see about that in a couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, because it was interesting. The episode 1, it's incredibly great, that map for leveling your masteries, because it's very strong in the XP that it gives. It gives a ton, so you can level those masteries very quickly. But you really needed to have your ley line gliding to get through there. I didn't, and I made it through, and it was quite tough. But I did it okay, and I did all that content. I didn't 100% the zone or anything. I didn't complete the map, but I got through the story at least in about 3.5 hours, including that mastery gating that they had in there that slowed me down a little
Mhm.
bit, pumped the brakes on my completion of that story. So it's nice to see that maybe I never like those mastery gates. They did it in Heart of Thorns. They did it in this. I hope they don't do the same thing again in this next update. So it sounds like they might not, which is kind of cool.
You know, yeah, it'd be great if the catapults worked. I think for the ley line surfing,
You're
they may
still going to
need it
need
to be
that. Yeah,
old
that's
mastery.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I get
it
that.
does look like, based on what we saw, it doesn't look like you will need to have those to get through the zone. I think you'll still be able to run and jump and walk your way to where you want to go if that's your preferred method of getting around.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, what about achievements? Are we looking at anything? If we are completionists, if there are completionists among our listeners, what can they look forward to getting for getting those achievements done?
We don't know. There are
Oh,
achievements, we know that. Uh, there are some rewards. They talked about a couple of new pieces of armor and some new weapons, but they were very tight-lipped about what those might be.
okay.
They did not want to reveal it to us. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that's
I mean,
that's that's
that's
that's slightly frustrating. I can only imagine how frustrating it would have been to be in the room. Like, okay, can you just give us just a little bit more? Nope. just
Just a
maybe a
hint,
little.
and
I hate to. Nope.
I even asked. They showed us, these characters. I'm like, well, that looks like a pretty interesting armor set they've put together, and they were very careful to point out that, oh no, that's not actually the armor set for what you'll get when you come out of this zone. That's just a bunch of random things that I threw together on this character before we made the video.
Mm,
Oh, okay. Well,
okay.
we'll see.
Interesting. All right. So,
Yes.
anything else on the PVE side of things that you think our listeners would want to know about?
I did ask them about a release schedule because they've been pretty tight-lipped about that in the past. So
Mm-hmm.
this is trying to kind of understand, when do we get to see this new stuff? How often do the players, really get to go through this? It does look like they are going to be releasing on a 2 to 3 month schedule for these episodes. I think
That's
that, I think that they'll probably find it a little too predictable. We haven't really seen enough content come out from them to find out what is it going to look like when they want to release an expansion versus a new story, and do you get it for free by logging in, or do you have to pay gems, or how are they doing this release? And I don't think they know. I think that they don't want it
hmm.
to be a very predictable schedule like they have done so far. If you can see, they've done, we had the original game which had a dragon, and they had an expansion which had a dragon, and now they're having a new episode which has a dragon. This is starting to look a little formulaic, and I think that that is what they want to avoid. So I think that they haven't.
Dragon
All
Wars
we know
2?
is that let's hope not. I think that that would become a little
Yeah.
bit predictable and dull from that standpoint. But I think they've got something exciting planned that we can look
Cool.
forward to, something interesting every few months at least.
Awesome. Okay, what
Yeah,
about we should probably talk about the PvP stuff as well. Is there
we
anything
should.
new? You mentioned that there's new stuff coming up for PvP. What is
Yes.
that?
Yes. Well, they were very, very excited because they're giving PvP actually quite a lot of love in this patch. They wanted to talk a lot about that, and like you, I'm not a PvPer, so uh, some of this I'm kind of I'm repeating with what they've told me
Mm-hmm.
with a grain of salt, because I don't spend a lot of time doing that. But
Mm-hmm.
they have a new map for us. They have a new game type for us. They have new tech that they're putting into it that they're going to be expanding upon to add whole new features we haven't seen anywhere in Guild Wars 2 yet. And it all starts with the new game type. The new PvP game type is a gladiatorial match. And
Hmm.
the maps that we saw are built like a coliseum. So if you can think of an old Roman coliseum, you've got this big
Mm-hmm.
pit in the middle, and there's a huge crowd around them, and everybody's cheering and jeering and rooting for one side or another. They've got all of that in this patch, and it's all new.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not quite a big cage match as you would expect if you thought of a Roman Colosseum. There is a real map, and it has, walls and corners and
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that you've come to expect from the beautiful PvP maps that Arenanet has released. But they've added map buffs, and so there's a conquest mode, and this is a PvP mode based around map control. It's I don't want to say it's a hybrid of PvP and world versus world, because it really is still PvP.
Right.
It's small teams going up against each other in still that same way, but they've pulled the map control element out of world versus world, and they've added offensive and defensive map buffs to this new conquest mode. And you can channel, just like you channel to gain a hero point, or
Mm-hmm.
channel for anything really in the game. You can channel these map buffs and gain it for your team for a time, and it'll give you quite a boon to help you be successful. So that's
Hmm.
going to be a really hotly contested element.
Mm-hmm. Now, like, I'm trying to think of the map itself. Like, how big is this
Mhm.
map? Is this similar in size to the other SPVP maps?
Yes, it looked like it was pretty similar in size.
Okay.
Again, we didn't see a live demo. We saw videos that they
Mm-hmm.
had put together for us, and they
Right.
didn't show the whole thing. So we saw bits and snippets, and uh, we saw kind of in the background something that they're working on. This is the version 1.0 of this, and they're looking to expand upon it, but they have added a reactionary crowd in this map.
Hmm.
So there's a crowd that will start rooting for teams and will start working on, somehow, we're not entirely sure what this involves, they'll be helping you.
Oh. So
Yeah, I don't
so
they
if you get
they
like,
said that
oh, go ahead.
they said that they have been building all brand new tech, not seen before in the engine in any way. Uh, dynamically reactionary crowds. They have a lot of plans. They weren't talking much about it. So I kind of expect that what we'll see up front is just a little bit of crowd reactions to teams doing well or teams doing badly, but I
Right.
think they've got some tricks up their sleeves with that.
Now, I'm just picturing in my head like procedurally generated crowds with, the team name banners that they're holding up. Go team, Jason, yay, go team Jason. And then if we're doing well, go team Chris, down with Jason. Right? Just procedurally.
Down
I'm
with
sure
Chris,
that's
down
not what
with,
it's going to be, but I just that's what I pictured in my mind. I wonder if this is going to have any effect on the battle itself. Did they talk about that? Like, is this just fluff on top of is it pretty window dressing, or is it actually going to affect the game?
I think up front, it's going to be window dressing.
Okay.
But with as much emphasis as they were putting on it, they were very proud of this. I don't think it will stay window dressing entirely.
Hmm.
I think that they are showing us the intro to something that's going to become a little bit bigger.
Maybe it's the intro to VR spectating of the SPVP maps, and then your
Ooh.
character can hold up a sign cheering on you can select right who to cheer for. Wouldn't that be
I
cool?
can just imagine once we all have an Oculus or a Vive in our
Yeah.
house, we'll just be sitting here watching this uh, virtually, just like we would watch any other
Yeah.
sports event.
So now, talking about big contests and gladiatorial battles, there's a new World PvP Championship coming up, isn't there?
Yes, September 17th, they're having the World PvP Championships for Guild Wars 2. There's a lot of money on the line here this year. They've put a $200,000 purse on the line. If you're not going to be in Burbank, California at their studios to have a look, you should probably look on Twitch because I think they'll be having everything streaming on Twitch as well. Uh, that's going to be a thing to see. If you want to see some really skilled Guild Wars 2 players out there duking it out for all the stakes, you'll have it.
Cool.
Rumor has it they've also got some interesting tricks up their sleeves for those that don't win. They're going to be doing a world premiere of these PvP maps for everyone to have a look at during that competition.
Oh,
So definitely want to get your eyeballs out there and have a look at it if you're really interested in a sneak preview of that
cool.
map. That's going to be the place to see it.
Now, you mentioned a couple times. In my head, I was just thinking map, but is there more than one map that they're coming out with?
I think that they only talked about the one new conquest mode map, this
Okay.
gladiatorial map.
Okay.
So I think right now what we've got is one new PvP map, but depending on how that's received, I don't see it being the last. I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they're trying to get a little bit more content in there
Yeah.
for the PvPers.
Cool. Well, it all sounds very, very exciting. Very coy in what they were talking about, quite
Mhm.
reserved in the amount of information that they were putting out there, and very
Yes.
controlled. This was under tight embargo until tomorrow morning. There's no discussion. We weren't even allowed to mention that we had met with them
That's
until
correct.
yeah. So this is not usual for PAX. It's usually
Mhm.
once you get the content, there might be a little bit of an embargo, but you can tease the content coming out, but not this time. This is fresh coming out, so a very interesting time. Now, did you what's your overall impression with this update? Do you think it's something that's going to be a great boon for the game?
I do. The devs were really quite proud of this, and you could tell that they all wanted to just talk for hours and hours and hours, and they'd get into talking about things and then just kind of trail off a little as they realized that they needed to stop talking what they were talking about because they're only trying to release some limited preview here that we're trying to give out to the community because I agree. You go to PAX, we love all this stuff just as much as all the rest of the community, and we want to talk about everything that we learn. So they're definitely, you're right. They're being coy. They're being tight-lipped. They've got a plan for how to release this, and they're going ahead with it. And so I'm just as eager as everybody else to see what they've got in store. I think it's going to be really great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with us, Jason. Look forward to seeing all the other great PAX content that you recorded getting out to our listeners' hands. Thanks.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Chris.
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like this video, follow the podcast, check us out on Twitch, YouTube, Patreon, everywhere else. We really appreciate you coming out and listening to this, and we hope to see you in game. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOReporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOReporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.